So we'll dive into all this with our guest now, Nabil Milali, multi-asset and overlay portfolio manager at Edmond Rothschild Asset Management. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So from what you heard from the outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu last night, he seemed quite positive that we might have a Prime Minister within 48 hours. Is this the end of the political crisis in your view?
Well, we don't think so. We think that the outgoing Prime Minister tried to inject some optimism yesterday, talking about the fact that President Emmanuel Macron will be able to appoint a new Prime Minister within the next 2 days. But there are three main options before Emmanuel Macron, and none of them is really satisfying. We think its favorite option now is to appoint a new Prime Minister, probably after trying three people from the center-right. He will try to find a more neutral figure to lead a technical government whose sole mission will be to vote any kind of budget before the end of the year. But there are at least two difficulties in this scenario. The first one is to find this rare gem, a political figure who's sufficiently neutral for the center-left and for the center-right. It would be really difficult. The second difficulty is that concessions will still have to be made to the Socialist Party, which is the real kingmaker in the current National Assembly. And the main sticking point is still the pension reform.
Yeah, so that seems to be one of the key concessions there. And we heard from, again, Sébastien Lecornu, one of the very first key figures to say, look, we need to reopen this conversation. There has been basically, kind of a cancer of the political discourse over the past 2 years. We need to reopen this conversation, try and solve it before the presidential of 2027. If there is a reopening of that pension reform, a freeze of it, a repeal of some extent, what does that mean in terms of the reform agenda in general and in terms of public finances as well?
Yeah, so the pension reform is at current level at 62 years and 9 months. So if the government decides to freeze it now, it would cost basically 500 million euros next year, 3 billion in 2027 and around 13 billion euros by 2035. These are estimates from the French Finance Ministry. But it will also be a political cost for Emmanuel Macron because his base, the centrist parties, don't really want to freeze this pension reform. It's basically one of the only or the only structural reform of his second term. And finally, it is a very sensitive issue for financial markets because it's one of the signs Emmanuel Macron gave to financial markets to show them that France is still trying to have its public finances under control. So going back on this issue would send a very negative message to financial markets and also a very negative message to the European Commission, which is very forgiving towards France these past months. But if they suspend the pension reform, maybe the tone of Brussels might change.